Why are people like this? Alright, so today we are reviewing the worst player archetypes to get teamed up with. And yeah, there's going to be a post for each player archetype in the sense that are greedy players the worst to play with? Are speedrunners the worst to play with? We are going to take a look at some posts and compare and contrast these situations to see which type of player is truly the most detrimental. I'm almost done leveling up my heavy Prestige 4 level 22. I'm doing the operations in order. Next up is Ballistic Engine on Lethal. Oh, that's a good way to do it. I wonder if you go through it like that, if it actually, gets you to level up correctly. In the sense that, like, yeah, if you go through Ruthless, Lethal, and Absolute, you are going to be closer to Prestige 4, something like that. Get joined to a match and progress with only one other player. Once I load in, it turns out to be a level 1 Vanguard. Level 1 Vanguard Lethal difficulty on Ballistic Engine? I mean, if you check out if they're like Prestige 3, Prestige 4, maybe Prestige 2 with relic weapons, it's possible, to be honest. I mean, when I used to level up my characters, if I jumped into Lethal level 1 with relic weapons and some really good prestige perks, you're cooking, but yeah, the reason why Lethal feels a little bit easier to jump into because the Extremist spawns are not as aggressive and you don't get another Terminus spawn. So essentially Absolute is like double as hard as Lethal. They're not too comparable. However, I can admit, yes, level 1 in Lethal is still pretty rough. Okay, I roll, but whatever. A mid-level tactical joins just after me. All is fine until a Carnifex spawns during the await completion of transfer protocols objective. Vanguard goes down to the Carnifex in a second. I probably deal about 90% of the total damage to it while Vanguard is getting revived. I am the only one fighting it when it goes into the execution state. Vanguard steps in and steals the execution. I lose a massive chunk of contested health. I lose it at that point because this is BS, seems to happen so often. Not only have you started a lethal difficulty operation with a level 1 character, but you are also hindering the players that are going to carry you through it. Yeah, making sure that I lose a massive chunk of contested health, dude. Yeah, there seriously needs to be a way we can tell if our teammates have contested health. It's a lot easier to tell if your teammates have armor, but right now, if you want to tell if your teammate has contested health, you need to keep an eye on when their health bar actually goes down, which is rough, to say the least. But yeah, This is rough, man, because level 1 Vanguard stole this execution, technically, which also hindered, yeah, the survivability of the Prestige 4 level 22 Heavy. I basically start deliberately stealing his executions. Nah, that's not the right way to go. Look, to be honest, when it comes to stealing executions, the only time when it actually matters, well, A, is contested health, and B, if you have a perk that integrates with it, you know what I mean? So if you can get an execution for ammo back, if somebody takes your execution, you don't get your ammo back, yeah, that's stealing an execution. But yeah, like, honestly, if everyone's healthy, don't get mad if someone just steals an execution randomly. That could just be a mistake. The only times you need to get mad at stolen executions if it's detrimental. Like in this scenario where somebody lost like more than half their health in contested health. Normally, I'm the kind of guy who leaves executes for squad mates if needed, but this time I was just standing next to him and spamming the execute button. Vanguard burns through 2 Guardian Relics during the operation. Oh, wow. That's rough. Goes down about 4 to 5 times in total. Yeah, okay, I will admit, when I'm jumping into Lethal level 1, I'm not burning through 1 or 2 Guardian Relics. I'm picking up a stim and mainly using that stim as far as possible, which in most cases, for me personally, is enough. Burning through 2 Guardian Relics? Brother, if I would leave. I would leave, man. Even without stealing his executions, he 100% would have failed if other players hadn't joined his game. Wait, I thought he joined your game, though. Get joined to a match in progress. So you joined his game. I see. I mean, that's still fine. So here's the thing, though. If you are joining a game and they're level 1 and you don't want to play with that level 1 player, it is your responsibility to leave, like, to be honest. I'm not too sure if you could have foresaw, the contested health being withered away because the Vanguard stole an execution. I'm not too sure if you could have saw that coming, but still, at the same time, you did sign up for a level 1 lethal game, you know what I mean? Anyway, right at the end of the operation, I go down to something, not sure. Let's guess. Zoanthrope or Spore Mine or Vine Mine. Something, right? Something like that. What'd they say? Ballistic Engine? Yeah. I think, yeah. Either Spore Mine or a Zoanthrope Death Beam or something. When I just lost 100% health in a single hit. Oh, lethal? Enrage Sniper, 100%, right? If there's Enrage Snipers and lethal, but man, I don't know. How do you go down by one shot in lethal? You know what I mean? Was surrounded, so it could have been anything. Oh, maybe Gaunts. Yeah, it's probably not just one shot, a whole bunch of chip damage. Oh well, sometimes BS like this happens in game. Tactical is on the other end of the area fighting. Vanguard refuses to revive me and just stands there shooting at me. Oh, okay, so this Vanguard's just not great. That's unfortunate. I mean, again, I just want to say, this player did jump into the Vanguard's game. You know what I mean? Clearly has no conception that I was giving him a taste of his own medicine. No, it's true, but dude, you also have to understand you did go about it in a pretty petty way. I honestly don't think the heavy's doing anything wrong here, but like you didn't shake off the one execution. Like the damage was done. Effectively, you would have been rezzed here, I guess, if they didn't go for the other execution steals, but I'm not too sure how you could even do that. Like the Vanguard, in theory, should be able to take the executions before the heavy even gets there, right? In a theory. Luckily, the operation was 30 seconds from being over by this point, so it didn't matter that I wasn't revived. The new bot update can't come soon enough. I'm so tired of players like this who get carried on high difficulty with level 1 characters just to XP farm and act like complete jerks while doing so. I mean, yeah, I agree. The Vanguard definitely was acting like a jerk. It goes both ways. Like, if the Vanguard accidentally stole your execution, you know, it's frustrating. I get it. But you can't, like, double down on that situation by, like, getting in the way of the Vanguard, because as soon as you know, also go down, and then the Vanguard's just trolling now, it's like, you really just need to shake off the bad moment so the moment doesn't extend. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's how it works for me. Like, I maybe need an execution or something. Somebody will accidentally steal it or something like that, right? And maybe I'll comment about it, but in most cases, in pretty much all cases, to be honest, we move on. We move on. I'm not going to sit there and stand in front of the guy, like, trying to nitpick his executions just because he stole one of my executions, presumably by accident, you know what I mean? So I guess this is definitely a mixture, to be honest, when it comes to a certain player to play with, because like this level 1 Vanguard, yeah, for sure. Level 1 Vanguard taking 2 Guardian Relics and dying with them. This is a level 1 greedy player, essentially. The amount of brothers joining stratagem operations without reading conditions is too dang high. Seriously, I completed the Vortex hard daily earlier, and I am not kidding. 2 tactical Marines joined and left after repeatedly dying. Oh, is it? Yeah, okay, there was a tactical class nerf. Now, I'm not sure if these dudes were trying to punish themselves or prove a point, but even after telling them tactical weakness was one of the conditions, they stuck around. Completely bizarre. Shout out to the Vanguard brother who stuck around until the end. Nice. So did both the tacticals left? Yeah, 2 tactical Marines joined and left after repeatedly dying. I don't think obviously leaving's not the bad part here. The bad part is jumping into hard conditions without reading the conditions. That is, yeah, stratagems. People who don't read the conditions for stratagems is definitely a particular archetype of player. These guys, I don't think they're as detrimental as greedy players or level 1 players, to be honest. But I do think players who don't read conditions and just jump into stratagems, they are definitely minimal detrimental. They are a minimal hindrance, because sometimes, you know, they will at least put some damage on the board. But yes, if tactical weakness is active, that means the tactical is doing half damage, they have half health, and they can't parry. So not too sure why they're not reading conditions, because yeah, also, by the way, if you're queuing into a stratagem, you do read the conditions before you do that. The only time when you can't read the conditions for stratagems is if the tactical was, for whatever reason, they joined a stratagem and the stratagem was switched in the battle barge. I think we need a way to see what the conditions are if you're not the host, because yeah, if the host switches conditions or stratagems in the battle barge, the 2 other players can't see what they are. However, in this situation, the tacticals, I think, just joined in. Vortex hard. Yeah, and Vortex, dude. Dude, that's a difficult operation to jump in with a class nerf. Nah, I think I think level 1 players are a little bit more detrimental than players who don't read conditions. But if this is a weekly, I don't know, maybe that is pretty detrimental. Like a daily is not that big of a deal, but like a weekly is way more annoying because there's a lot more at stake, right? Pick up the stims. You're not a named Marine. You know, I really try to not complain when it comes to players because everyone has their own playstyle, but for the love of God, pick up the stims. I don't care how cool or tough you are, pick up the extra stims. You're not him, you're not Titus, and you're certainly not a Custodes. People that don't heal or pick up the extra stims are just a liability and become a massive burden when you need to be revived more than 4 times. Whoa. I had a Prestige 3 heavy refusing to pick up stims because he thought he was a named Space Marine, which he wasn't. So please, for the love of God, don't be a liability to the team. Okay. Yeah, I mean, players who don't pick up stims, I guess this could be an archetype that people don't like playing with. I think it's funny. This is obviously, at least in my opinion, these are probably the least threatening players to queue up with. These players aren't going to get in your way, but to be honest, sometimes I wish they were just a little bit in my way, so because then they would heal themselves. Please pick up the stim. I have 2 stims. I'm looking at the stim right now. I'm pointing at it. The teammate to my right is full healed. You, on the other hand, have a mortal wound, and you are at half health. Please pick up the stim, dude. I've been in this situation sometimes recently, but yeah, dude, to be honest though, sometimes it's like I'll have like maybe 1 Guardian Relic or something, and then I'll have a teammate with 2 stims, and then I'll have a teammate with a Gene Seed. This is where it can become detrimental, to be honest. It's like players who are picking up Gene Seeds, but they're not picking up stims, and they're just leaving stims up for people. That can be a little bit annoying. I think recently we had a video where somebody picked up a Gene Seed, right? And then they didn't pick up any stims, and then no, they picked up the Gene Seed and they had 2 stims, but they were hanging out at like half health. And then I think Wrath of the Imperium blew up a barrel and they died, dying with the Gene Seed. I genuinely think it's a video before this one. So wait, no, it's not. Sorry, it's actually a video from yesterday. But yeah, dude, that's pretty detrimental if you're carrying the Gene Seed. But to be honest, even if you lose the Gene Seed, you can still get a victory. So to me, that's not too detrimental, to be honest. But that would be the worst case scenario. Greed. Why are some people so greedy in this game? I just played Decapitation, and despite being half health since planting the bombs, this Bulwark was taking every stim he saw. To top it off, our tactical had a mortal wound, and the Bulwark still took the Guardian Relic. Oof. I never went down, so I guess it's okay in the end, but it still baffles me. Yeah, this one's rough. This one's rough because it's a Bulwark. Bulwark can essentially heal themselves depending on their level, of course. But yeah, dude, there's no reason. If you have the Guardian Relic, in my opinion, you don't need a stim. That's how I approach Guardian Relics. Like, whenever I have 1 Guardian Relic, I am leaving stims up for my teammates. I'll pick up the stim if my teammates are maxed out on stims. But yeah, ultimately, I do think greedy players are a step above like speedrunners and probably a step above players who just don't take stims. Because for greedy players, this is the exact situation that makes it detrimental. If somebody on the team has a mortal wound and you picked up all the items that could have dealt with it. So now if they go down, it's going to be 2 players alive when we could have had 3 players alive very easily. Sometimes, though, I have seen like 1 or 2 comments, to be honest, of people who didn't understand how you can like pull up the menu to see other people's items. Maybe that's a factor. I don't think it is, though, to be honest. Hopefully people are keeping track of what they're picking up, you know what I mean? But yeah, I feel like greedy players are just as detrimental, or maybe just a little bit under, you know, a little bit under the detrimental scale, I guess, of like level 1 players. Level 1 players, weekly players who aren't reading conditions, greedy players, these are probably the 3 archetypes that are the most detrimental, especially considering stratagems. Because yeah, hard stratagems especially, you definitely rely on, you know, clearing your mortal wound at least a little bit, you know what I mean? At least a little bit. Dude, I don't know what it is about mortal wounds, but I feel like mortal wounds are like a curse. When you have one on, it feels like the game is just trying everything possible to take you out. You know what I mean? But yeah, maybe that's just a theory. that is a game theory. Okay, but yeah, when it comes to detrimental players, I do think these are the archetypes that are the worst to play with. I still think level 1 players potentially are the worst to play with. However, I have played with a level 1 player recently who didn't really die that often and actually put up some good numbers for damage. So I would say 9 out of 10 times level 1 players are the most detrimental. Like maybe 5 out of 10 times players who don't pick up stims are the most detrimental. Like maybe 5 out of 10 times, maybe even lower, to be honest. I would put greedy players like pretty close to level 1 players. Like 8 out of 10 times greedy players are a detriment to the team, something like that, right? And then yeah, players who don't read conditions. I mean, to be fair, it is kind of like a 10 out of 10 times they're detrimental, but to be honest, they tend to leave the game at least. So, I don't know. Okay, maybe it is between players who aren't reading conditions, greedy players, level 1 players. Yeah, they're all kind of close on the detrimental scale. It's wild out there. The number of people that join great responsibility games and proceed to take stims and armor boosts when they're clearly not the VIP is way too high. Recently, I had one player get really bitter and start aggressively trying to cut me off to take stims. I think because he thought I was hoarding stims and didn't understand the modifier. It was a rough go, but we still completed it, and he had 2 stims and boosted armor at the end. I took so much redirected damage, extremely lucky to have been playing Bulwark as VIP there. This was normal. It shouldn't have been as difficult as it was, but it felt like a larger challenge than running some of the hard strats I've done. That's pretty interesting, and to be honest, yes, running great responsibility with other teammates in normal stratagems can be just as difficult as some hard stratagems. Not every hard stratagem is super difficult, impossible level, you know what I mean? Some hard stratagems are simply just a little bit harder than Absolute. So if you're clearing Absolute without much trouble, mainly because you're, play the game a lot, you know what you're doing, you're fully leveled, you have a good kit, a good build, all of that. So then you're ready for hard stratagems. I feel like some people are skipping Absolute, to be honest. I feel like some people are completing Lethal and then jumping into hard stratagems, and that's definitely not the way to go about it. But yeah, this is pretty interesting. This is definitely a detrimental situation where you're on normal stratagems, but the mission is compromised because you have one player who hasn't read the condition. I'm curious of what level that player was. But yeah, that is definitely the situations we are trying to avoid. I do feel like some mechanics in this game make it a little bit anti-co-op. Okay, I'm listening. For example, I mainly play Vanguard, and my build is set up to chain grapple executions for the big AoE. Yeah, yes, I understand that. Zone of impact, right? More often than not, I'll shoot something, weaken it, and activate my grapple. Lo and behold, it's been killed before I got there. You should still be able to activate Zone of Impact with that, right? Like, I've grappled enemies and triggered Zone of Impact and had a teammate execute the enemy before. But yeah, likely not the same situation. But honestly, though, this is still... I feel like this is a knowledge situation where the players you are playing with need to understand how Vanguard grapples executions. You know what I mean? Like how they can chain together executions. You definitely, if you're playing with Vanguards, just, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out. Attention to detail can go a far way. So I honestly, that example is fair, but I don't think it's anti-co-op, to be honest. I think if anything, it's a skill ceiling for co-op. Costing me a charge and often leaving me dead in the water, or there will be times in low on health, I'll get a Scarab Terminator, for Unmatched Zeal, yeah. I'll get a Scarab Terminator ready to execute, and then the sniper with full HP who just stood there spamming the execute button, not actually attacking it, will take it. Yeah, nah, that's a player not being able to play around Unmatched Zeal. Where do we categorize that? Players who can't read? Yeah, probably. Probably. Because of how contested health recovery works, you can often find you're racing your teammates to get kills, and it leads to awkward moments like you described. Oh, that's fair. Not every time when someone's stealing an execution, they're technically stealing it. In a theory, somebody could take an execution because they also have contested health. That's fair. I think that's rare, but that is definitely more so about management, like, maintaining your resources and everything like that. But still, sometimes there's just bad RNG. I think that's unfortunate. In some ways, it's actually easier to play with bots with great responsibility, yeah. They do little actual damage, but they leave executions for you and very rarely steal your kills. Yeah, bots are still kind of rough against Terminus, but I mean, in certain scenarios, sure. I just still wouldn't do that. I wanted, like, if bots actually become fun to play with, I'll mix it in with certain stratagems probably, but I don't know if I'd jump into Absolute with bots. I have done true solo Absolute, but I always like the idea of jumping into solo missions with heavy with Bonds of Brotherhood, because the bots can res you and heal you with Bonds of Brotherhood, which is kind of huge. And then you can just, you know, use a stim. So that's like one of the best ways to play solo, in my opinion. But yeah, when it comes to detrimental players in the game, I do think these are the archetypes you have to look out for. You know, players who aren't reading, players who, maybe players who don't understand what your class does. Maybe that is another archetype. But yeah, ultimately, we have not seen the last of detrimental players in this game. So yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Let me know in the comments your least favorite player to play with. But yeah, ultimately, we all know level 1 is too low for hard stratagems. Let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this, and thanks for watching.